So, do you know people who exaggerate? Do your brothers and sisters sometimes go to your parents and they tell them something that you did and really exaggerated, and it's not really what happened, but they're kind of trying to get you in trouble? They've got a point, they've got a reason for exaggerating. Or you've heard somebody tell a fish story or say something like, the needle was this big when really you know it's not. Or here saying, the phones are exploding. They're not literally exploding, but they're trying to make the point that a lot of people are calling in. Or you may have seen this in real life too, when something happens and sometimes a couple people get upset in real life, but then all of a sudden it gets exaggerated when it's on the internet and on social media. This kind of exaggeration is called hyperbole. It kind of looks like hyperbole, but that's not the way we pronounce it. It's hyperbole. And it's an exaggeration to make a point or to be funny. So I'm going to show you a couple clips of hyperbole. So you may have noticed in the videos that Ross was really exaggerating a problem that could happen to their baby locked in the apartment. And the unicorn was not so fluffy that someone would actually die. Those were exaggerations to be funny or to make a point. So we're talking about hyperbole, again, which is an exaggeration. And we see that in poetry too. So let's go ahead and read a couple poems together. Maybe you felt like this before. This is somebody who is exaggerating how sick they are. I cannot go to school today, said little Peggy Ann McKay. I have the measles and the mumps, a gash, a rash, and purple bumps. My mouth is wet, my throat is dry, I'm going blind in my right eye. My tonsils are as big as rocks. I've counted 16 chicken pox, and there's one more, that's 17. And don't you think my face looks green? My leg is cut, my eyes are blue. It might be instamatic flu. I cough and sneeze and gasp and choke. I'm sure my left leg is broke. My hip hurts when I move my chin. My belly button's caving in. My back is wrenched. My ankle sprained. My appendix pains each time it rains. My nose is cold. My toes are numb. I have a sliver in my thumb. My neck is stiff. My voice is weak. I hardly whisper when I speak. My tongue is filling up my mouth. I think my hair is falling out. My elbow's bent. My spine ain't straight. My temperature is 108. My brain is shrunk. I cannot hear. There's a hole inside my ear. I have a hangnail, and my heart is, what? What's that you say? You say today is Saturday? Goodbye. I'm going out to play. So she was exaggerating how sick she was so she wouldn't have to go to school on that day. Or this one with time out. All by myself, alone in a room. My mom put me in time out. So lonely 10,000 years. So lonely no one remembers me at all. So lonely my whole world is just this room. Oh wait, my 5 minutes are up. Goodbye. I'm going out to play. And I wanted to share one more poem with you called The People Yes by Carl Sandburg. And this is one you might think about using for an emulation poem. It's talking about yarns. And when they use the word yarn, they essentially mean a tall tale. Like think about Paul Bunyan or Pico Spill, where things are really, really exaggerated. They have yarns of a skyscraper so tall they had to put hinges on the top 2 stories so to let the moon go by. Of one corn crop in Missouri, when the roots went so deep and drew off so much water, the Mississippi riverbed that year was dry. Of pancakes so thin, they only had one side. Of a fog so thick, we shingled a barn and 6 feet out on the fog. Of Pecos Pete, straddling a cyclone in Texas and riding it to the west coast where it rained out under him. Of a man who drove a swarm of bees across the Rocky Mountains in the desert and didn't lose a bee. Of a mountain railroad curve where the engineer in his cab could touch the caboose and spit in the conductor's eye. Of the boy who climbed a cornstalk growing so fast he would have starved to death if they hadn't shot biscuits up to him. Of the man's whiskers, when the wind was with him, his whiskers arrived a day before he did. Of the hen laying a square egg and cackling, ouch, and of hens laying eggs with the dates printed on them. Of the ship captain's shadow, it froze to the deck one cold winter night. Of mutineers on that same ship, put to chipping rust with rubber hammers. Of the sheep counter who was fast and accurate, I just count the feet and divide by 4. Of the man so tall he must climb a ladder to shave himself. Of the runt so teeny weeny it takes 2 men and a boy to see him. Of mosquitoes, 1 can kill a dog, 2 of them a man. Of a cyclone that sucked cook stoves out of the kitchen, up the chimney flue, and on to the next town. Of the same cyclone picking up wagon trucks in Nebraska and dropping them over in the Dakotas. Of the hook and eye snake unlocking itself into 40 pieces, each piece 2 inches long, then in 9 seconds flat, snapping itself together again. Of the watch swallowed by the cow, when they butchered her a year later, the watch was running and had the correct time. with horned snakes, hoot snakes that roll themselves where they want to go, and rattlesnakes carrying bells instead of rattles on their tails. Of the herd of cattle in California getting lost in a giant redwood tree that had been hollowed out. Of the man who killed a snake by putting its tail in its mouth so it swallowed itself. Of railroad trains whizzing along so fast they reached the station before the whistle. Of pigs so thin the farmer had to take knots in their tails to keep them from crawling through the cracks in the pens. Of Paul Bunyan's big blue ox spade, measuring between the eyes 42 axe handles, and a plug of star tobacco exactly. Of John Henry's hammer, and the curve of its swing and his singing of it as a rainbow round my shoulder. They have yarns. So this is a poem that you could emulate if you haven't chosen one already. They have yarns, and you could make up some yarns, some tall tales, some exaggerations to put in there. It doesn't have to be quite this long. So let's take a look at your assignment for today. Your task is to come up with at least 5 examples of hyperbole, 5 examples of an exaggeration. And this could be a little bit cathartic if you're feeling very frustrated by something, like my brother's tantrums were so extreme. So think about maybe things that are going on even in your own life as you're trying to come up with ideas. For example, the town where I grew up is so isolated, it makes ghost towns look popular. Our theater is still waiting to get Charlie Chaplin movies. I don't even know where it is. The only friend I had was a duck. We just recently got news of this newfangled technology called VCRs. We had to drive to the city for gossip. We lived in huts because it costs too much to get houses out there. Paper, scissors, rock is considered a high-tech game. So think about using some of the sentence starters below to get started if you can't think of some. The quarantine was so long. We had so much snow in 2019. We had 19 snow days. Oh, wait, that's literal. We had so much snow in 2019. My dog got lost in it. Oh, wait, that's literal too. But we can exaggerate it. So much snow, maybe that it buried your house. My brother's tantrums are so extreme. Her singing was so off-key. My room is so messy. I did so much homework once. The summer was so hot. The light was so bright. My grandmother's casserole was so disgusting. My brother or sister was so loud. We were so bored, and then some kind of an exaggeration after that. So you're going to come up with 5 to type in for your answer.